Let's talk about how to make a gavel. First things first, you're going to need to make sure you have those X's on each end from going corner to corner on each of your pieces. Make sure you use a ruler. After that, we're going to need to set it up on the lathe. Make sure the spacing is just enough to fit your piece in, and then lock it in using the black handles, and make sure you stab carefully the center of each side. Once you have that figured out, make sure it's as tight pretty much as you can and there's no space on either side of the piece of wood. Once you have that, it's important that your tool, when you cut, is centered right in the middle of the wood. So you may have to adjust the tool rest so that it is going to allow your tool to cut well. Make sure you are wearing the proper attire. You want a face shield for this. You can adjust how tight it is and then make sure it's covering your eyes. The proper speed for roughing it in is anywhere between 1200 to 1500. After that, we want to hold the tool properly. Don't hold it in the back. You want to use your left hand and you want to push it up against the piece of metal, and your right hand will be in the back. You'll use your thumb to push down so it doesn't vibrate and it will be able to stay steady. As you can see here, I am pressing down at one spot until it comes completely round at that point, and then I'm moving on to the next spot until I was able to get the whole thing. Once I have that finished though, you can travel sideways and that will give you a nice even cut without a bunch of lines. You just have to be careful you don't take off too much. Here I'm just sanding it a little bit. You can see I pulled the tool rest away and that will give it a nice smooth surface so that I can write on it. Here I have my profile that I cut out. I'm going to use this to place all my measurements on it. I'm going to start with the measurements at the very end to mark the overall length of my actual object. These are going to be the first marks that I cut into it, just to mark they cut off some of the excess material. I can turn the lathe onto the slowest speed, and then once I do that, I can press the pencil up against it and it will make a nice, easy to see line that I can utilize to cut accurately. Here, I'm just going to start marking all the other marks. Basically, anywhere it changes the size, up or down, I am marking it. So there's the beads, the parts that are the round parts, I'm doing lots of those, but even just a slow slope down, I'm marking from the top to the bottom. So there's going to be a whole lot of pencil marks on here once we're done. And that's what mine looks like. Now, at this point, I'm going to use the caliper and I want to cut out the part that is going to actually go up into the gavel. I have it set to exactly 1/2 of an inch, which is the size drill bit that we're using. And now I'm just going to try to cut just the part that's going to go up into it to 1/2 of an inch. You can see I'm turning it off often, then double checking to see if I got the right fit, because you can't obviously grow the wood back. Don't cut too much. Take your time when you're trying to figure things out like that. Now, when it comes to cutting out your design, I'm cutting out the smooth parts here first, and they're going to be slightly lower than the beads. So I'm cutting down into those, knowing that the beads here I'll be able to leave and have come up just a little bit more. So here I'm just slowly shaping the beads using the detailer, trying to make it look nice, taking my time, making things look symmetrical and even as best as I can. Once again, touching up the end. And then here is the skinnier part of the handle, so I am sloping it down here, making it a little bit skinnier. This other half of it is skinny as well. And then this center part here is also going to be a less than, instead of having the rings come up, they're going to be down. So I'm just cutting away some of the excess material, and there are the 3 little spots where it's going to cut in, smoothing things out, making them a little bit deeper and symmetrical. And here I'm going to do the 2 beads at the very end. So once again, cutting the flat surface down a little bit lower, rounding the end of it, and now it's time to sand. So sanding, do not go at a fast speed. You actually want to be about 500 for this, and you're going to try to get in all the nooks and crannies as best as you can. It's not a bad thing to be pushing down hard on it. Here I'm just going to use a simple handsaw, and I'm going to cut off on the back end of it. And I'm just going to go back and forth a couple times, and at the very end I'm just going to simply, if it pinches, loosen it up, and that will pop it right off. To get off the other part of it, you could handsaw again. In this case, I took mine over to the bandsaw and I slowly pressed it through, and that's going to be adjusted. Make sure you adjust that amount so that it actually fits the proper amount into your actual gavel. There you can see, it all came together.